And welcome to the Brian Kelly Radio Show, live from O'Rourke's Public House. They're not making much noise, but we have a huge crowd here tonight. There they are. They took the play call and ran with it. The Fighting Irish home opener against Nevada coming up on Saturday. An Irish team that does want to bounce back. And I know it's always tough to deal with your favorite team losing, but when you look at some of the positives, there were a lot of positives in that game. Your offense scored 47 points. Your defense has taken responsibility for not playing up to the level they know they can play at, but some things you might not know. They did hold Texas off the board for 20 minutes in the second half when they buckled down and cleaned up some of their mistakes. They also had 5 3-and-outs in the game. That's one more than Texas. And this team is, in fact, ready to take the next step. You know, if you weren't identified with one of the teams, if you weren't rooting for one of the teams, then it was a great game. An instant classic is what people are calling it, and it was the highest-rated college football game during the regular season since the mid-2000s. So there were positives coming out of that game. Positives that the team wants to take into this week. We do want to welcome one of our new sponsors, Norfolk Southern Railroad. Norfolk Southern wants you to make the next game, slow down, look both ways, and never try to beat a train. Cross railroad tracks carefully, get home safely. To learn more, go to tracksarefortrains.com. The Irish practiced in the stadium today, as they usually do on the Thursday before a home football game. Coach's presser got underway right about 6:45 tonight. He has to meet the media, and then he gets over here as quickly as he can. In fact, he is on his way, and I'm fairly sure he has a police escort, so he should be here momentarily. So what we will do to make this show even better is we'll take our first commercial break now. We'll have more time then for Coach to answer your questions and for you to meet the tight ends on this team after this first time out. The Brian Kelly Radio Show, live from O'Rourke's Public House. Brian Kelly Radio Show, live from O'Rourke's Public House, presented by TireRack.com. And ladies and gentlemen, you saw him very quietly slip into the building. Please welcome the head coach of the Fighting Irish, Brian Kelly.
Jack, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
We're back home, so it's always a good time when you're back home, and we've got our fans out here tonight. So great time to be a Notre Dame fan.
Win or lose, I don't know if they turn up the radio when you're held by all your responsibility. I can explain the press conference, go over a little bit later. But talking about, nobody's happy about what happened last weekend. Nobody's making any excuses. But when you lose, some of the positives do get kind of erased. It was a classic football game, played at a high level by both teams. And the thing is, you know what went wrong, and you were already correcting a lot of it in that game. Very few people talked about the fact that with the game on the line, your defense did step up, held Texas scoreless for 20 minutes. You had 5 3-and-outs. They only had 4. So there was a foundation there, and I loved Isaac Rochelle. He was really clear that we've got to play better, and it was pretty simple. We made occasional mistakes that led to 9 explosive plays. That's why we lost, and that's what we can't do.
Yeah, I mean, we got in at halftime, and certainly being down by 7 on the road at halftime, it's really about, what kind of mental toughness did you have when you go on the road, because you've got to now win the second half. And, we won the second half, but it wasn't enough. And so I'm proud of the way our guys competed. Certainly, we needed to make one more play. But when you look at a football team, you want to see what their resolve is, how they compete when they're down. Most teams on the road down 17 points kind of just say, well, this wasn't our day. But not this group. With a lot of young, inexperienced players, we've got off that team 10 guys that are on NFL rosters. And so that's a lot of players to lose. But they didn't use it as an excuse when they were down 17 points. They just dug deep, found a way to take the lead with 5 minutes and 23 seconds to go. We needed one more stop. We needed one more good kick. We needed one more good drive. And we didn't come up with one more. So what we learned from that game more than anything else is we've got to finish. And so all week, really the watchword or the phrase that is resonating with this group is one more. We need to do one more.
And I think people judge games based on last year, and you're very good at always reminding me last year's gone. You just pointed out all the folks that you lost, and I know one of the Twitter followers on our postgame show got very angry with me for playing what he called the youth card. He said, I knew you were going to do that. Well, they had 14 starters back. You had 7. You had a very young secondary. You coach them up the best you can, but there's only one way you get experience in games, and that's to play. And it doesn't always work when you're playing. ESPN just named its 8 blue bloods all time in college football. Texas and Notre Dame are 2 of those 8. Charlie Strong's a heck of a coach. Notre Dame fans know that. He was here, recruited well, and they had some players that stepped up at home in front of 100,000 fans and played really, really well. And some of your young guys didn't execute the way you would have liked them to, but not necessarily the way anybody has a right to expect them to.
No, again, look, we took the lead with 5 minutes to go in the game, and you know, if I said, look, we're going to go on the road with an inexperienced group, and we're going to get it into the fourth quarter with a chance to win the game, you know, most people would say that's where you want to be. You want a chance to win the football game in the fourth quarter, and we had that chance. We needed to make one more play. They made it. We didn't. We took it to 2 overtimes, and look, nobody's happy. You know, the first thing I said to our football team, there are no consolations in losing a double overtime game on the road. It's too hard. We put in too much time. So there are no great lessons to be learned other than we got to finish, and that's what we worked on all week.
And you've got 10 regular season games left and 11 regular season games left, and we would expect another game after that. And we live in a society that's worse now than it's ever been. 2 games, thank you, 2 games left after the regular season, where people make final judgments every day. You make a final judgment after the pop quiz, so to speak. And that's something, it might be hard for your players to be able to not listen to the noise, but that's a sign you have in the Goog. Ignore the noise and know that you have to build on it. And there was certainly nothing to be ashamed about that. And I like the way your players have turned. 11 more games. Just about everything's still there, if not everything's still there.
Yeah, they hear it on both ends, right? They hear it when it's going well, how great they are, and you lose a football game, and how bad, you know, this group is or this player is. So, look, it's Notre Dame, and one of the things you love about Notre Dame is that you've got such a passionate fan base, and that's why these kids came to Notre Dame to play in those kinds of games. You know, we didn't play a 1AA opponent. We came out of the gates, went to Texas on the road in the opener for 102,000, and that's what we wanted to do. And we came up a little short, but we're ready for Nevada.
And, of course, as I told these folks, highest-rated college football game in the regular season since the mid-2000s, and it was very well received nationally, unless you were really pulling for the Irish. We've got lots of questions from our audience here on WatchND. We now also video stream these shows on Facebook. We're getting questions from those folks. So I want to close this segment by getting a little bit more in depth than we normally do, but I think it's important on Nevada, a very talented team. Brian Polian's the coach. He was an assistant here on Charlie Weiss's staff for 5 years. He's turning that program around. Everybody, when they think of them, think the pistol. But it's much more than that. They have a new offensive coordinator. I know you probably were wincing at all the things. You were telling me all the things they do.
Well, a new offensive coordinator who comes from Montana State, and last year they averaged over 500 yards and 40 points a game, and very creative offensively. You're going to see some looks that you probably have never seen before in terms of offensive formations and things that they do. So they're going to be a challenge offensively. They're going to move the football. So, you know, we've got to be on top of our game. You know, we've got to obviously do some very good things on both sides of the ball and in our kicking game. But this is a team that won a bowl game last year. You know, they won their bowl game, and they come into, Notre Dame Stadium with nothing to lose. And it's another team that we play that won a bowl game. So, again, not an easy opponent, a one that will give us a challenge and one that we'll have to be ready for.
Well, and every one of your opponents but one won their opening game. So it's never easy here. And the one that didn't, even though all Notre Dame fans are smiling about that one,
USC.
They'll be a better football team by the time you have to take them on. So we're going to take our first time out, and we'll be back with questions from here and all around the world, really, right after this timeout. The Brian Kelly Radio Show, presented by TireRack.com.
Main Street Village. If you haven't seen us lately, you'll want to take another look. We're conveniently located off the I-90 Turnpike
Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Radio Show, live from a packed O'Rourke's Public House, presented by TireRack.com. All our questions also presented by TireRack.com, and rightfully so. A lot of Irish fans are very concerned about a young man who was playing a great game and took quite a hit. Is Torrey Hunter okay?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously suffered a concussion, and he's going through the protocol, making progress. But we'll see where it goes. He's going to try to get some work in tomorrow, but anytime you suffer a blow to the head, it certainly, one of those things that, win or lose, player safety should be, at the premium. And obviously, I don't know what the officials here were looking for, but this seems to be a classic case of, contact to the head and neck region. But, again, it wasn't called, and I don't have an explanation. I wish I did.
Folks listening on the radio, we were showing the play to the folks here at O'Rourke's and everybody watching, and you can watch the archive. If you want to see the play again, it's going to be on the show. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, especially when, in my opinion, you've lost some guys in recent years to borderline calls, and I went up and I looked up the rule, and it doesn't even have to be helmet to helmet, as you know.
Nope.
Shoulder or forearm to the head, I don't understand it either. And a lot of other folks were wondering, Greg Bolin has emailed on Ask Coach Kelly from Maumee, Ohio. Did you ask for a review of that play? You can't, by rule, ask for a review of a targeting play.
It only can be reviewed in situations where a flag is thrown, or it has to be egregious. And the Big 12, the game was officiated by ACC officials, and the replay was from the Big 12. So the Big 12 would have to consider that egregious. The Big 12 didn't see that as an egregious hit. I don't know what you have to do to be egregious. Yeah. Obviously, you have to take somebody's head off physically. But the bigger issue here is the officials are covered, right? All they have to do is throw a flag, and it can be overturned. If it wasn't targeting, the replay official can then look at it and say that it wasn't targeting. So for having no flag thrown in that situation where you're not held, hostage in a sense as the official of making a mistake, you then prompt a review. So, it's unfortunate that player safety can't be driven to the point where an official who's in that kind of position can't see it. And if it's not the back judge, why aren't the side judges involved in it? So, look, this is behind me. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to talk about it anymore because it really doesn't do me any good. There's
nothing you can do.
There's nothing I can do about it. So I've moved on. I've moved on from it. It's an unfortunate situation. I know this, that I'm held responsible for safe tackling techniques because it's safety and it's part of the game. Officials should be held responsible if they're not holding up their end as well.
And it's not this specific play, but it's been a pet peeve of mine for years, and I understand the conferences are more comfortable having conference employees as officials in non-conference games. But I don't think this is going to go away until somebody finally has the courage or the money to step up and make national officials with no conference affiliation. And some officials have said, well, you're saying the officials are cheating. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's human nature. Well, if there's a bang-bang play...
If I'm the Big 12, why would I... Look, Texas is in the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
If the ACC, who doesn't represent our conference interest, if the ACC is not even smart enough to throw a flag... Why would I, as a Big 12 member,
overturn it?
Why would I overturn it? It makes no sense. So really, this falls on the ACC at the end of the day, in my opinion. But we need to move on, or I'm going to find myself fined.
Well, not only you, I may get talked to after this.
So
I've opened this door. I may get some calls tonight from your staff members telling me I need to do a better job. But I think everybody agrees nationally. So we're moving on. With a game on Sunday, what practice activities get eliminated with a short week leading up to this game? Tom Hensler from Houston, Texas.
Well, I didn't eliminate anything from practice. What I did is I really shortened our Tuesday and kind of bumped everything back to Wednesday, Thursday, and then tomorrow we'll extend our Friday workout a little bit. So just made Tuesday really almost a Monday for us, which is a very light day, and then added a little bit each day. So, and I really took out some of the things that are, I would say, individual, if you will, and stayed more with the group and teamwork for preparation for Nevada.
Jerry Liss is here as always, and Jerry, Coach cannot talk about specific players that are being recruited, but he wants to know if you are recruiting wide receivers in this next recruiting class, the one that signs in February.
Well, we have 17 commitments, and some. If you look at some of the recruiting services, you'll be able to see some of those guys that are committed to us. We have some outstanding skill players at the wide receiver position.
Beth Hensler is here because her husband's here. He, of course, is a Notre Dame graduate. I know the fans are convinced, but do players and coaches believe we've gotten the loss of the season out of the way early and you will lose no more?
Yeah, we're not going to lose anymore. I mean, we didn't think we were going to lose the first game. Look, I mean, we felt like, it's an overtime situation. We ran out of time. The clock stopped. It was tied. And this is, if it was, 15 years ago, it was a tied game, right? For all those Notre Dame fans who've been with us forever, it was a tie. Don't even look at it as a loss. That was a tie. How's that? Does that feel better? Look it, have another beer then. You guys feel better about that.
You made a decision, and it's one that I think everybody thought you would make after examining the performances and Deshaun Kaiser really stepping up and playing well. And you acknowledge after the game, and so I know you wanted to think about it, Malik didn't have that much of an opportunity, and I can vouch in practice and preseason, they were neck and neck. Mm-hmm. But Deshaun is your starting quarterback, had a QB rating of, I think, 206 point something, one of the top 10 QB ratings in the country this past week. But we do have another question from Mr. Liss, who often asks good ones. Do you think Malik would be open to playing another position? But at this level, you need a couple guys ready to go at this position.
Yeah, no, he needs to focus squarely on the quarterback position. There's just too much going on within our offense that – Malik can come in and run our offense at a high level, and we will not miss a beat. So he's got to stay where he is. And, they were neck and neck coming out of camp. And by virtue of the game that Deshaun put on, he nosed ahead, and he'll get a chance to start the Nevada game. But the great part about it is that we've got a guy that's waiting in the wings if things don't go the way they've gone in the past for Deshaun. We got a great guy that's ready to go. He's had 2 great days of preparation and work, and he's prepared to play if need be.
Well, and your quarterbacks run the football.
Yep.
And I'm certainly not bringing up any dire circumstances. We're certainly hoping that Deshaun doesn't get banged up. But right. I was reading somewhere the last time you had a quarterback play every game for an entire season was 2006.
Jack, don't say that.
So stuff like this happens, though. People have to be ready.
What is that?
People have to be ready. You have to prepare for these things.
We are preparing. But no injuries this year. We're on a no-injury year.
Well, if everything balances
out.
Well,
look at last year against Texas, right?
You shouldn't have any injuries for 2 years.
That's right. We're in good shape.
Kimberly's here from Lancaster. Kimberly, where are you? All right. Kimberly says, Coach, can you wish our grandfather George a happy 83rd birthday? He has waited 83 years to go to a Notre Dame game, which he will on Saturday. He drove from Arizona, and it took him 3 days to get here.
George, happy 83rd birthday, and welcome to Notre Dame. Glad to have you here.
We'll be back with more of the Brian Kelly Radio Show right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to a packed O'Rourke's Public House for the Brian Kelly Radio Show. And, folks, in recent years, as you know, Notre Dame has reclaimed the name Tight End U. Here are your tight ends for this season. Durham Smythe, Nick Wisher, Tyler Luatua, and Jacob Matuska, who's in transition right now from his former position on the defensive line. So what is it at this point like to be in the situation that all of you are in? The last 6 guys to start at tight end at Notre Dame were all drafted by the NFL, and 5 of them in the first or second round. Is this now considered like a fraternity and a certain obligation to perform at a very high level?
Sure. I mean, I think to an extent it is. First and foremost, I think it's kind of an honor just to be a part of it. just have our names kind of mentioned in the same sentence as those guys. And to an extent, I think it's a responsibility too, to uphold, the level of play that those guys started. Like I said, I think it's an honor.
Now, Nick, you're the all-time leading receiver in the history of Illinois high school football with 237 catches. Did you guys know that about him?
Oh, yeah.
But you played mostly wide receiver, or did you play tight end?
I did. I played receiver mostly.
Mostly wide receiver. So you were like huge at wide receiver for a high school kid.
Yeah, I guess 6'5". A little bit of a string bean back then, but, it happens. It worked out well.
And I, of course, as the basketball guy, I know you played basketball in high school. Was it just your sophomore year?
No, I actually played 3 years. So I had shoulder surgery my junior year, so I wasn't able to play then, but freshman, sophomore, and senior year.
So was it a tough transition to go from wide receiver to tight end? How much weight did you have to put on?
So I came in about 215. I've probably put on about 30, 35 pounds now. So it wasn't too tough. I mean, the hardest part for me was the strength-wise, obviously being 215 when I came in. But, being a receiver in high school has helped me at the tight end position now. But the hardest part was the blocking. I didn't do much inline blocking as a high schooler, but it's been a great transition so far.
Jacob Matuska, after productive years on the D-line, moved over to tight end. You're from Columbus, Ohio, where another school that will remain nameless exists. But playing tight end is something that you did very well in high school. So has this been a tough transition?
I think at the beginning it was something that going from the defensive side of the ball for 3 years and not really having that experience on offense at this level, it was kind of rough at first. But I think, as I kind of went on and through these guys' help and Coach Booker and Coach Kelly and all the other guys, it was easy to kind of pick up where I left off there in high school. So I think having that experience in high school really, benefited me.
And obviously you grew up in the shadow of Ohio State. Michigan offered you, Nebraska offered you, Oklahoma offered you. Ohio State didn't offer you, but it didn't matter because you were coming to Notre Dame all along, right?
Yeah. Notre Dame was a dream of mine ever since I was about 10 years old. So, I knew this was a place for me, and getting the chance, like they said, to play tight end at a university that's produced such great names at tight end, it's an honor for sure.
Now, we're glad this guy is back, but he's probably the reason that you're sitting here on tight end night tonight because I can't imagine. I remember how impatient I was, and I wasn't an athlete, but even in broadcasting, well, how come he's getting to call the game and I'm not getting to call the game? Maybe I should have gone to a different school. So I kind of went through a very similar thing. And you kind of decided that you were going to transfer, and then in May you said, you know what? I can't leave here. Why was it so hard for you to leave here?
Just being here as a student without playing football and just being around the campus and just getting to feel like what I came here for when I came here to visit my senior year of high school. There's a different aspect and different perspective of Notre Dame, and just going through without football. I went to spring game and just seeing the guys out there made me miss it more, and I knew this is the place for me, and I knew I got a chance to be closer to home, but I know my family's always going to be there for me whenever I go back home. So, I think I made the right decision of staying at Notre Dame, and I love it here.
Well, I know the reaction when you decided to come back. Everybody was both your teammates, the fans, all very happy that you're back here. Now, I have to imagine that some of your teammates kind of just accused you of this was a way you figured out to get out of spring practice.
Yeah, I had a few guys coming to me, punching me and getting on me for missing spring ball. But, I'm kind of sad I missed spring ball, missing the experience I could have had for a semester and leading to the season. I feel like I could have used it coming into the season.
Now, Notre Dame kind of protects you guys. I don't publish your Twitter handles, but because I want all your friends to know you're going to be on the show, I have to go look for them. So I got to ask you, it took me a while to find yours. Why is your Twitter name Liler Tua Tua?
I was just bored one night laying in bed, and I just thought it was interesting and funny to change it around, and because no one knows how to pronounce my last name anyway, so I might as well just change it around.
Yeah, I had a little bit of trouble. For you, how pleasing is it to be back, to be healthy? You were the starter last year. You go out with that injury against Virginia after you score your first touchdown in not a normal tight end touchdown way. Let's go back to that play. Talk about how that play developed and how excited that you were that the fake field goal worked.
Yeah, no, that was an awesome experience. We had put that in at the beginning of the season, and I knew that we might have an opportunity to run it against Virginia. And it was actually funny. I think we were on like the 7-ish yard line, and we got a delay of game. Or so the fake came in, and we were about to run the fake, and there was a delay of game. So we were about to scoot back. They're saying like we're not going to run the fake anymore. But then Virginia declined the penalty. So we went back to the 7-yard line. We put the fake back on, and we ran it. And it was, it was exciting. It was awesome. And I mean, it was kind of unfortunate the injuries happened then, but
As a tight end, you've got to be good at a lot of stuff. I mean, right now you're probably considered the most balanced tight end. You catch the ball really, really well, and I know you're trying to step up and become a more dominant blocker as well. How do you evaluate where you are right now?
I think I've come a long way. Obviously, like I said in high school, I was majority receiver, not much blocking experience. But just looking back from the spring games of last freshman year, and just looking at where I'm at this year and just practice film, it's definitely getting there. I have a lot of work to do still, but I'm really excited. And just got to listen to the technique, listen to the coaching, and get you a long way.
Now, I'm sure even opposing teams, Jacob, are going to assume when you're in there to block. You still 270?
Yeah, somewhere between 265, 270. It varies.
You're the biggest in terms of weight anyway, right. But I've seen you in practice. You've made some catches as well. So how do you see your role, and how do you like back at a position you played in high school?
Honestly, tight end is actually probably the position that I feel the most comfortable with, and I'm very happy that I was able to make this transition. And obviously, like you said, weight-wise, I'm the biggest tight end, and teams are going to assume that I'm in there to block, which if that's my role, I will fully take that on. And just kind of growing as far as that, and also as receiving, kind of as Nick said with his blocking, that's kind of somewhere where I can improve my game somewhat. So just kind of trying to be the more balanced tight end like Durham, and just improving myself that much more.
Tyler, you've always been very physical. You've thrown some great blocks while you've been here. You've also made some nice catches in games. I've seen you make some spectacular catches in practice. Where are you right now in your development scale?
I too feel like I've come a long way, like becoming a balanced tight end. Because when I first came in here, I was kind of like heavy, and I feel like I've slimmed down a little bit. And especially with the time off, like in the spring, I feel like I've dropped a lot of weight, and I feel like I'm becoming more of a balanced tight end, but I know I need to have a lot of work to become a balanced tight end, and I feel like I've been improving more. So.
Well, I know this audience is enjoying getting to know all of you, and next up, I know their favorite segment of most shows. You all get to run the 60-second drill of questions after this timeout on the Brian Kelly Radio Show, live from O'Rourke's Public House. Welcome back to the Brian Kelly Radio Show, live from O'Rourke's Public House, brought to you by TireRack.com. And, of course, you know what they serve at O'Rourke's. And as we go on to this show, the crowd gets louder and louder, which means our friends here at O'Rourke's probably make a little bit of money over there at the beverage dispensing area. Time now for our 60-second drill. You can come up with a group answer or give your own answers. And the questions start out easy, and then they get interesting. And you also get the chance to take a shot. Clean one at some of your teammates. So that's why folks, I think, love this so much. First car you ever drove?
I drove a 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
GMC 2002 conversion van.
2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
I think mine may have been a Honda Civic.
How'd you fit in a Honda Civic?
I don't know. I think I was smaller back then, so.
I'm going to make sure you guys remember the year of the car that you first drove. Favorite musical group?
Mine varies, but I would have to go with something along the lines of like an Incubus alternative rock type thing.
I'm going to have to go with OAR.
Yeah, I'd have to agree probably with OAR.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of music group I like to listen to reggae.
All right.
Sure.
Favorite all-time movie?
Start with you.
Mine is Remember the Titans.
A Few Good Men.
Mm-hmm. The Dark Knight.
A Few Good Men is great. I'll go with that. Yeah.
How did you convince your first date to go out with you?
So I'll consider my first asking to prom my first, and I actually made a video, a YouTube video.
Really?
And had my teacher tell this girl that it was an assignment, and she watched it, and she said yes. So
Ooh, is it still up there?
I hope not.
People are searching right now all across America for this YouTube. Nick.
Yeah, for me the first date was it's homecoming, high school. Just did the typical flowers and maybe a box of chocolates or something. That's about it for me.
I'd probably have to go back around, the less serious 8th grade first date, but we went to the movies, and asking her kind of straight up, just asked if she wanted to go to the movies with me. So nothing too special.
You were an early developer.
Yeah,
I'm impressed.
yeah.
Tyler.
Myself, I was kind of shy back in high school, so I didn't have to do all the work. I think it may have been after one of my high school games, my junior year. I think she came up to me after, when we got back to the school from a away game, and asked if I wanted to go to one of the restaurants down the street, and
you said yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the best part when they ask you. That's the best part. And I'm feeling old now because these two had flowers and candies. We just asked. It's obviously gotten a lot more expensive than when I was there. Best nickname on the team, and who has it?
Nicknames.
I'm just go with Gummy.
I'd go with Barrel. Mark Harrell, the Barrel.
I agree with Barrel. Yeah,
Barrel the Barrel.
I'd
You agree with that?
Yeah.
One thing you always hear from Coach Booker at practice. And yes, folks listening at home, he's here. So,
I
got it.
Okay, go ahead.
Stay on your feet.
Stay on your feet's a good one.
Durham!
you don't hear wisher, wisher, wisher. You hear Durham, Durham, Durham.
Yeah,
All right.
Durham.
One thing you always hear from Coach Kelly in practice.
Turn your brain on is one we get a lot.
All right, no one's going to top that. Toughest player to block on this team.
Isaac Rochelle.
Isaac,
Yeah,
No question.
Inline Isaac.
Best singer on the team.
Corey Robinson.
Corey Robinson,
great
yeah.
singer.
Yeah.
Nick Watkins also very
Nick
good singer.
Watkins is a great singer too. Yeah.
Best dancer on the team.
Nick Wisher.
Yeah, Nick.
Oh, yes.
not close.
Nick
We've
was-
heard that quite a few times,
Are
actually.
there any YouTube videos of that?
There should be if there's not.
We'll get him up. We'll get him up.
All right. Just let me know and I'll retweet them. That'll work. Best comedian on the team.
Jays.
Even coach agrees with that. If there is one, best comedian on the coaching staff.
I don't know
Booker.
if I don't know. He said Booker. I don't know if I have one there.
All right.
Coach Denbrock's pretty funny.
Denbrock usually gets it
there's
upon
times there,
further review.
yeah.
How about best dresser on the team?
Avery
I
Sebastian.
think Cole Luke is up there.
Cole Luke. Yeah. Avery. Both good.
Worst dresser on the team.
Mike McGlinchey.
Yes.
By far.
Yes.
Agreed.
Mike.
No question.
Yeah,
Far
for
away.
sure.
Coach,
Not close, yeah.
Coach is agreeing.
For sure.
Yeah, doesn't he have to up his game a little as a captain or no?
I mean, not in that regard, I guess.
No, okay. Player on the team most likely to become a football coach.
Gummy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Montgomery.
And finally, best thing about playing for Notre Dame.
There's a lot of them. For me, I think just being around the tradition, having that gold helmet on, it's touching the sign. It's pretty surreal every time, and it does get old.
Yeah. I think mine's similar too. I think you really get the feeling on game day when you're in that locker room, in that stadium, and you can just kind of think about all the people that have come before you, and like Nick said, touching that sign, running out in front of 80,000, nothing like it.
Being part of that, special fraternity of all the guys who came here before us and all the people that are going to be here after us, it's just something special.
I'm similar to them, just being able to play in our home stadium with strap on the gold helmet and just being a part of the tradition that comes inside the stadium and around the academics and around campus.
In terms of doing well on the show, the bar is pretty high because all you guys are pretty smart, but you did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Notre Dame tight ends. Back with more on the Brian Kelly Radio Show right after this timeout. Folks, as you know, tonight's Brian Kelly Radio Show is brought to you by TireRack.com. And while we're talking running, passing, and kicking, the experts at Tire Rack have cornering, traction, and performance of a different kind on their minds. That's why you'll be able to get your tires right at TireRack.com. Find, deliver, install smarter. And folks, I want you to go ahead. Welcome Coach back to the broadcast table here. And I mean that seriously. I mean, sometimes I even get asked, this is my 35th year. Why are you still there? That's one of the reasons why I'm still there. The kinds of people, the kinds of athletes, not just in football, that you recruit to this place. And there just aren't. We will probably have in 10 shows 25 to 35 players in front of hundreds of people in person, thousands around the world, literally, and they always comport themselves well. And it's a skill that a lot of adults never acquire.
Yeah, they first of all, they're all here for the right reasons, and that is that they want an incredible education and they want to play for championships. So all 4 of these guys made that decision as a choice, not as, well, I'm going to Notre Dame because I want to play football. They came here because they wanted both those things. So that's a choice that they make, and those are the kind of kids that you want to coach because they make good choices.
And they also have to represent this university well to a very high standard. And what I kind of like is when you play sports, when you coach sports, there's a blue area on the field and when you're in the locker room, and nobody ever crosses the line when they're live. And that's something that takes a lot of people a long time to know where that line is. We live in a crass society.
Sure.
These guys never cross the line.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with who they are and how they were brought up. And then again, you can't get to Notre Dame unless you've made a lot of good decisions along the way.
Lots of questions remaining for you. Bill's here from Granger, and just in general, because Avery Sebastian went through it this week too. He wants to know what is involved in the concussion protocol.
Well, it starts with baseline testing before the season begins to find out about your hand-eye coordination, how you respond to different stimuli. So you begin with some baseline testing. That baseline testing allows you to be evaluated after any kind of head injury. Once you pass that baseline testing, you then go into the next stage, which is you want to elevate the heart rate. You want to begin some form of conditioning because elevated heart rate and blood flow will then allow you to be evaluated as to whether you can move on to the next step, and that is full exertion. That's the third step. If you get through full exertion after an elevated heart rate, you can go into controlled contact and then full contact. So there are stages that you have to go through. The first one is based upon that baseline. And we added a new baseline this year, and that is an eye retina scan. Your eyes follow a ball. You put on these 3D goggles, and your eye retina will follow a ball and create a circle. After a head injury, you put these goggles back on, and if your eyes are not tracking properly, you're outside that baseline. You have to track properly before you can move on to the next protocol. So that's been a real good indicator for us to move people along in the protocol for us.
And this week, Avery's back. Torrey could be. That's still to be determined. He'll practice tomorrow. And you also have other technology in the helmets now that can measure the G-force of hits that the players take.
Yeah, and I think all of these allow us data to make good decisions, but ultimately it's still the player that has to feel good. Mm-hmm. He's got to obviously lessen his own symptoms. In other words, he's still reporting symptoms, and once those symptoms start to go down, we can move him through it. So all the technology is great, all the science is great, but ultimately the player still has to be, even if he's cleared, he still has to feel like he's ready to play. Somebody asked me today, well, if he clears and is cleared to play, will he play? Well, it's really up to the player at that point. He could still be cleared, but he still has to feel confident that he can go out there and play.
Dale Delisle tweeted this question to me. Please ask Coach how he defines adversity and what prescription he prescribes to players to overcome it.
Well, on the field adversity, off the field adversity, we have so many different things that our players have to overcome. Adversity in their personal life, they have to deal with them at different times, certainly, and they're going to be confronted with it. As it relates to football, adversity is when things aren't going your way. How are you going to react? There's 102,000 people yelling and screaming, and it's loud, and you've just dropped the ball, and you've made a mistake. How do you handle that adversity? You've just gotten a bad grade, and you've fallen behind in a class. How do you handle that adversity? So there's just different forms. What we're looking for are young men that are going to persevere and fight through it. Know that there's going to be some ups and downs, but they got to have the confidence and know that they can get through it and have the backing, from us that they can and will do it.
Very intense fan Judith Schuler has emailed us on the experts@TireRack.com. Ask Coach Kelly webpage. She's from Edders, Pennsylvania. Coach, how can you keep a team's foot on the pedal and put away an opponent once you get a lead?
Well, I think you need guys that can make those plays when the time is necessary. And, a couple of drives, a lot of people talked about the defense, but the offense had 2 opportunities to close that game out, in my estimation, is that we had 2 drives that we stalled on where we made some pretty big errors on the offensive side of the ball and from some of our better players. And so it's execution. I call it competitive greatness. In other words, you rise to the level of the time of game, and at the time that we needed the biggest plays, we didn't get competitive greatness. We got guys competing, and they played hard, but we needed competitive greatness, and we didn't get it. We didn't get the best from our best players when we needed it. And so we just talk about that, and we show them those situations, and that's why I was talking to you earlier about we got to finish games, and to do that, we got to rise to the level of competitive greatness.
When people from our home state come out here, we always try to treat them right. We've got a couple of young men here from the city where the Pilgrims landed, Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Yes.
Owen Kelly is here, and he would like to know what got you into coaching.
Well, I played football, and I was involved in it, and always, loved the game. We all obviously have passions for different things. I've never believed that a passion drives you towards your vocation. What you're good at drives you and makes you passionate, right? And for me, I was always pretty good at leading and pretty good at getting guys to coordinate and do things as one. And playing the game as a captain, I was a 2-time captain, I just seemed to have a knack of getting guys to do the things that we needed to do to be successful. So that was a passion of mine. So that's why I went from playing, decided to go into coaching.
Garrett Kelly's also here, and he knows you played, and he knows you were a 2-time captain, but he wants to know, did you ever actually play in an adult league?
Well, the adult league that I played in was called college football, but not the NFL. I was not blessed with the right genes. I had the Kelly genes, which, I think in most instances we were just a little bit too slow and a little bit too short. So we were short on a few of those genes.
Doug Miller's here from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. What percentage of the top 100 rated high school football players are you able to recruit every year?
I would be taking a guess at it. I would say probably somewhere near 50%. Yeah.
That must mean then, because I don't think it was always that high, are they doing a better job at the high school level making sure that the athletes are taking the necessary courses to be able to get scholarships at the top schools?
Yeah, I think they are. I think that I think academics, in terms of overall, everybody understands the need for a college degree, and then in high school, it's taken a lot more for the high schools now to prepare them. So you're seeing a better job in the high schools of preparing these kids, and the kids understand they can't get a scholarship unless they prepare themselves the right way. So I'd say about half of those guys can qualify, and then of that 50 percentile, then do they fit Notre Dame? And then that obviously cuts off another group.
Joshua Doty's here from Jacksonville, Florida. Coach, if you weren't a football coach, what would you do?
That's a great question. Something I like to be around people, and so it would have. I can't sit in an office. I don't like that. I don't like looking out the window. So something that would keep me, moving around. I'm probably teacher, educator, something like that. Something that allows me to interact on a day-to-day basis and teach and educate or something like that.
You were in politics and you were a political science major, right?
Yep.
Would that, in this day and age, it's changed a bit. Would that still be something that would attract you?
Well, the state of politics does not attract me at the least right now. And I just, and I don't follow it very closely. I probably should because we're in an election year. But it just seems as though it's less about substance and issues and more about somebody did something wrong, and it's just not very attractive.
It's like
to
a
me.
schoolyard fight. Don't follow it because to me
Yeah.
it's like a car wreck. I don't want to see it, but I can't take my eyes off.
It's exhausting just listening to both sides bicker about each other.
Josh Doty's also here from Jacksonville. What, if any, are your superstitions? You're not a real superstitious guy.
No, I don't know if there's a superstition. So I get asked that all the time. I'm extremely...
It's like you're supposed to be superstitious.
Right. So superstitious, and for me, things that would bother me if they weren't done properly. And it's for me, like, for example, I cannot leave a practice unless we practice victory kneel. Does anybody know what victory kneel is? It's when you take the snap at the end of the game and you kneel down. Hard play, right? But if I don't practice that, I would lose my mind. But it's the easiest play. But I feel like you have to do that because you're practicing something that you would do. Now, that's not a superstitious thing, I guess, but it's like...
Well, it kind of, if you have to do it.
Maybe it's a superstition. Okay, so that's a superstition, I guess. Or I'm just...
A functional superstition.
It's a functional... I have to practice that play every week. And people look at me, well, why do you practice taking a knee? Because we're going to take a knee and win the game.
Positive thoughts.
And I want to make sure we take the right knee.
And we all have positive thoughts going into Saturday's game. We covered Nevada at the top of the show, so we're done. Thank you for your efforts. Audience, thanks for coming out. We'll be here again next Thursday after Notre Dame's win over Nevada. Thanks for coming out. Good night and go Irish.